Good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brinson. Trying to help you establish some ideas or some routines that will hopefully help your marriage become better. And we're just here to give you some of the information that we learn and we come up with on a weekly basis, whether it be something that we read in church. Something we read on the internet or something that we get from church. So we're just here to bring you that information as we get it.
And we are appreciative to those of you who join us regularly and faithfully. And as always, we ask you to go ahead and share this broadcast, this Facebook Live, with as many people as you think might benefit from it. You can send it a messenger to them, or you post it to your Facebook page. However, or just put it in your news feed, whatever you're comfortable with. It's always a good idea to consider some of the groups that you might be in, and maybe sharing it there so that you can
it's always a good idea to
consider some of
the groups that you might be in.
So,
consider sharing it there so that you can. It's always a good idea to consider some.
All right. Sorry about that.
So, once again, share it with others so that we can have as much circulation as we can. So we got Sheena Lott and Nikisha Jenkins joining us. Both those families are very faithful. We appreciate y'all cutting us into your regular Monday routine. And we hope this lesson from this lesson you can find something you can use. Hey, Mandy Brantley also joining us today. So we've got folks kind of trickling in. So we got Trey Smith. Why isn't he showing up on mine? Just on yours?
No.
Okay. All right. So that's we just want to make sure, as always, that we represent our church ministry. Many of you may be watching us from our church Facebook page, which is Crown Kingdom Cultural Center. If you are not, we do encourage you to join our Facebook page. It does not mean you're joining our church ministry. It just means that you'll have access to that information anytime you want it, and you will also have the option to receive notifications when we go live. When the grief and loss class goes live, when our pastor goes live, those things will come up on your feed if you set it that way, if you're a member of the page. So that's totally up to you, but we definitely encourage it, because some of the things we talk about, including today's lesson, do come from, at least it's a spinoff of the lessons that we've been learning in church. And that's exactly what we have today. Is we just took a very small piece of the lesson from Sunday, and we're applying that to marriage and sharing that with you all. Just a little negative information that hopefully will be helpful.
All right.
And did I say our pastors, our church?
I don't think you named them.
Well, our church is in North Augusta, South Carolina, 720 Old Edgefield Road. Our pastor is Bishop Finus Bush Jr. and Denise Bush. We are very proud to represent them and to work in the ministry under their leadership. And this marriage ministry is a direct reflection of their heart and their passion for families within the body of Christ.
Okay. So with that said, we'll get to the lesson tonight, and that is reasons for a non-productive marriage. We're just that was a title that just kind of set my spirit, and some marriages look like they're not going anywhere, they're not doing anything, and we just wanted to talk about some of the reasons why that might actually happen, and for you to examine your marriage to see if something that we might mention tonight is keeping your marriage from being non productive. But yes.
Well, I think it's important too for you to take an honest look and see if your marriage is intentionally being productive, or your marriage is intentionally working towards something that the two of you can do together that you wouldn't be able to do apart, but something that is making the body of Christ stronger, or making the world better, representing Christ because the two of you are together. Is your marriage an intentional contributing asset to the world, to the body of Christ? And so that's what we mean by productive versus non-productive. And if you look at your marriage relationship and it's not really strengthening, encouraging, or building something together, or doing something that is making the world better or representing the cause of Christ, we encourage you to maybe consider that maybe there might be a non-productive component to your relationship that you might want to examine and consider, and figure out how to be intentional about the purpose. Why are you together?
It's a good question.
Why are you together? You'll have, if you have children, that's a great that's we God gave us the commission to be fruitful and multiply. That is important. Is there more? Is there more? Because there, to be honest, there's plenty of people that have children together that are not a couple. They don't have that marriage component. Let's focus on your marriage. What is your marriage doing to make the world better? What is your marriage doing to reflect the cause of Christ in the earth, or to further the cause of Christ in the earth?
Right.
Think about it.
So we're just gonna bring some points that may actually hinder that thought process. And then once you think about it, come up with reasons you and your spouse, your husband, or your wife can come up with to get through some of these things we're going to discuss with you tonight. Yesterday in church, Bishop mentioned the word lust. Now, lust is a hindrance. He was talking about lust being a hindrance to people being successful. But that goes to your marriage also. Do you have lust or do you have desire? And most times lust is contributed to sex. And if you read the definition in the dictionary, it's going to say a strong desire to be sexually active. But there are things that contribute that's in your marriage that you may be lusting for that's not helping your marriage. Let me say that again. There may be things that you may have a lust for that's not helping your marriage. And you might say, well, what is that, coach? What you talking about? Lust can cause you not to make decisions for the marriage. Lust can cause you to make decisions for yourself. That's where selfishness comes in at, when you have a lust for something. That means if I had a lust for, we're going to use sex. Let's just say I had a lustful desire to have sex with another woman. That's being totally, that's servicing me. That's not servicing our marriage. And if you have that desire in you, you need to address it so you can continue with building a marriage with the one you decide to marry.
Address it.
Address it where, identify that you may have a sexual desire for somebody else, and figure out, why is that happening? Why don't I have that, not a lustful desire in a marriage for your wife? Why is my wife not enough? If you got that lustful desire, why isn't she?
Wait a minute. Why is your wife not enough?
Sexually. If you got a lustful desire for somebody else.
That don't mean your wife not enough. That's an issue with the husband. That's not necessarily a shortcoming on the wife's part.
Never had said that about the wife. And here we go, people.
What?
My thing is, when you have a lust for somebody else, in your mind, you might think my wife may not be enough. That's what I always heard when I talk to guys that have been outside the marriage sexually. It's like they ask themselves why their wife was not enough. I'm just pulling from my experiences talking to guys that say that. I'm not saying I'm blaming the woman for that. That has nothing to do with her. That's a selfish component on the man. And I'm just making an assumption. It might be the same thing for a woman that want to go outside the marriage. That's for her benefit or his benefit, not for the component of the marriage. Still don't.
You out there by yourself.
Okay, I'll keep that one for myself, people. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about lust. All right, you got
See, my mind didn't go anywhere close to what you're talking about.
Okay.
When we start talking about overcoming personal lust, I'm thinking about lust for food, or lust for even like TV, or even social media, things that we tend to want, those things we have desires for, that are unproductive to the marriage relationship, because they eat up your time, they eat up your thought, your mental space in that capacity. But it is a type of lust, because it is that personal self-fulfillment. It only services you, and it's a desire that really is not rooted in love. It's not rooted in purpose. It's just rooted in doing what feels good. So
Okay.
that's really what I got from that lesson. From that part of the lesson, is that we do have a need to overcome personal lust, and so I guess it depends on whatever a person might feed on or take in, whether, and it could be sexual appetite as well. I certainly understand that, um, but I think it's important to not to just look at it singularly, because not everybody has an issue with that sexual component of lust, although it's thrown in our faces everywhere you look, on TV, social media, everywhere. Sex sells, and so sex is always in our faces. So that definitely, I don't mean to belittle that point, but I also don't want us to only think that, because a person can think, well, oh, this point doesn't apply to me because I'm not consumed with sexual lust. But the truth of the matter is, we do have to look at these cell phones, and that tendency to always want to be on it, that tendency to want to be, people have different reasons. Sometimes it's just you want to see what's going on. You get kind of addicted to the updates of what's going on in the people's lives around you, or you might be consumed with this Johnny Depp trial, because I be trying to catch up on it every day to see what it is, but it really doesn't serve a greater purpose. It's just an individual interest or concern, that when out of moderation can pose problems within the marriage relationship. Because what you're not doing is, while you're focused on those things, what you're not doing is nurturing those things that are tied into your purpose.
And there's a point right there, is like she mentioned about having a lust for TV, lust for food. And if you got different uh, vices, which can be lust and all those things, and both of y'all have two different ones, that's taking away a lot of time from trying to have a productive marriage. That's why you need to be aware of what you may be actually desiring more than spending time with your spouse.
What do you have a lust for?
Right.
Because those are things that'll keep you separated. Those separate interests will feed into a reason to cater to those separate interests, instead of things that you share in common that would bring you together. What are you reading? Comments.
Man, that's a true statement. According to
you
my
gonna read
husband,
it out loud?
You could put it. You're right. You're right, Mandy. You could put a nigga woman on a box of cereal and it become a bestseller. Mm-hmm. Sex sells.
What's the comment above it? I can't say it.
It says, I understand. That's why you don't compare your marriages to others.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't be in that boat of thinking that the grass is green on the other side. Or, people are living better than you. Mm-hmm. And all that. And that's where that's where your eye gate come in at. Where you're looking at somebody else too much when you should be looking at each other and finding a way to build your marriage.
Right. Well, it's the flip. The rest of that saying, the grass is green is on the other side, really isn't true, because the grass is green where you water it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So where you spend time watering, nurturing, fertilizing, caring for the grass in your yard, your grass will be green. And it won't matter what color the grass is in somebody else's yard or what's going on the other side. You got to take care of what is your responsibility and what's right around you. So, but definitely feeding into those personal lusts will result in a non-productive marriage, because you won't be taking care of your marriage. You're taking care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And that can go to a sexual connotation too.
It can. And that's a rough one now.
But it's the truth. You gotta take care of the relationship. Those things, be on the same page and work together to build the marriage together, so that your marriage can be productive. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's another reason for another reason for marriages being non-productive? It's just flat out laziness. It's laziness.
Laziness.
And I've been guilty of this. This is one I really have to work on, is, knowing what needs to be done and just choosing not to, because there's something more comfortable that I'd rather be doing, like enjoying my nice warm bed, or even watching TV. or sometimes for me, it's even reading a book can be something that would make me choose something that's comfortable, something that's relaxing, as opposed to getting up and doing what needs to be done, such as getting out and going for a walk, which is something that builds towards purpose, at least in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that needs to be nurtured and taken care of is health.
Yep.
Health, mobility, wellness. And when instead of doing those things, or instead of actually cooking a meal, which would save money and give us a healthier choice, it ain't, nothing but a few click of the buttons, especially in Augusta. We can get DoorDash for pretty much anywhere. DoorDash, Waiter, Uber Eats, Augusta to go, all of that stuff is right there at your fingertips. And if I don't feel like cooking, I'm on that phone making it happen. And that's really is the result of laziness. It's not that we don't have, things available to cook. It's just, and sometimes it is just being tired. But if you plan ahead, then you wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have that issue. Even preparing things on the weekend that could just be warmed up. I already know what Mondays are going to be like for me.
That's right.
It's not a surprise when Monday comes around. So planning ahead, which once again, the enemy to that might be laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting to relax instead of taking the time to plan ahead, sit down, create a menu, communicate. And those are the things that bring us closer together when we take our time and plan together. It makes everybody happier with the outcome. It makes us more productive. And it makes us able to focus and get things done because we're on the same page.
Right. And the thing about the word lazy don't mean you don't have the ability to do it. You just choose not to. And when you choose not to, you make that choice not to do it. Guess who that's going to fall on? Your other spouse. To make things happen. And then when you put too much on them, they have a tendency to become resentful and not want to work on things with you. And you can that makes that marriage unproductive. We like she said, if you don't want to cook, you can say, well, like Bishop was talking in church yesterday about making a decision together, and you just don't and want to be called lazy minded. Instead of somebody trying to work together and say what we're going to eat, like we go to restaurants often. Instead of making it something delightful, like we got the money to go eat together, we can go eat just about wherever we want to, but it becomes an issue. You can actually get in an argument for not choosing where to eat, which is, sometimes it's just lazy minded. I don't want to choose today, I'm going to let them choose. Same thing in the middle. I don't want to choose, you choose. Now we're going back and forth because one of us don't want to help choose a restaurant to go eat at. Should be an easy choice, but we get lazy-minded. And lazy-minded can cause the marriage to not be non-productive.
Well, and it causes there to be unrest and, what's the right word? Disagreement, where there just doesn't have to be. It just don't have. And even if it's not eating out, it can be something totally different. Whatever, can be controversial in your home. But the truth of the matter is, if you really just take a little bit of time to plan, you can overcome that obstacle. I mean, that's one that we finally learned to master, which is we made a list of places that we enjoy. And I keep that list in my phone, and I've shared it to him in a Word document. And when we get to the point where we're like, I don't know, you pick. And he's the same way. So he'll say, well, what's on the list?
Yeah, what we got?
So we start going down the list, and we can always find something on that list that we both can enjoy and agree upon. So there are ways to make sure you're on the same page and that you are communicating and being productive, because the productivity comes about when there's a meeting of the minds, when we actually are not distracted by all these little day-to-day things that can cause friction and confusion among us when really they shouldn't. They're just distractions. And if you really want to look at it from a spiritual perspective, we have to recognize that in marriage, it's those types of things that we sometimes allow Satan, and we actually sign on. And what's that saying? People say, "Don't let the devil ride; he'll want to drive." I don't know why I thought of that, but it is appropriate for what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you're being difficult. At least that's my testimony. But sometimes I just go with it, and when I go with it, it's always a bad choice. And so it's a matter of choosing to be productive, remembering that the purpose of the two of you being together is for us to walk in agreement, for us to enjoy peace, for our lives to reflect the peace of God. And so we can't let all these little things throw us off. But if we aren't intentional about it, they absolutely will throw us off.
Absolutely, they will. All right. Now, the next thing that can cause, non-productive in your marriage is lack of something. Could be lack of money, lack of love, lack of commitment, lack of self-control,
lack of wisdom.
That's probably the main one right there.
I think so.
Having the wisdom to understand how you lack in your marriage and how it's causing your marriage to be non-productive. So when you don't have money, and I'm just going to quote the bishop a couple times tonight. He says, no money, no honey. Now, I think honey is being sweet. We all can kind of assume what honey could be too. But I'm thinking there's a sweetness in a marriage if there's enough money in the house to do what needs to be done. Money is not the root of all evil. It's the use of money that can be evil. But money has a potential to solve a lot of issues. So if you have what you need monetarily, you're going to be all right. As long as you got everything in perspective.
It's about agreement around money too, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the component or one of the most important components is that agreement around the money, because you can have all the money in the world and be miserable. Just having enough money alone is not going to do it.
That's true. A lack of money, you're miserable too.
Oh, absolutely. If there's a lack of money, you're going to have some problems. Unless both of you are very blessed and skilled to be able to manage life in agreement and in peace, in the midst of not having enough money. I would admire someone who can master that, but I don't know that I know anyone who could master that. So, yeah, definitely a lack of money poses problems. I can't say an abundance of money resolves any problems, but certainly a lack of money is, it's almost like some of these other things we're talking about don't even matter. It's just about trying to get the basics covered. And so we definitely want to be aware that having that lack of money, and God gives us a plan in the Bible for how to manage our money. That's if we learn to follow God's plan, that goes back to wisdom.
Right.
It's having the wisdom to follow God's plans that He has laid out for even how to manage your money, how to manage your time, how to manage your relationship. As a whole. If we learn to have wisdom and follow God's plan in all these different areas of our life, then that issue of lack becomes something that we can fathom, that we can overcome that.
Yeah, most lack can be overcome by a good plan.
That's true.
Lack can, even if
wisdom.
I don't have the say we had a bill coming up and I don't have the money to pay it. If we come up with a plan and agree on that plan to how we can get that bill paid, we're not going to have any issues. It's when the idea is lingering out there and we know this has to be paid, but we hadn't talked about how to do it. That's going to cause some issues.
Well, it's so easy for both spouses within a marriage to get so easily offended when everybody is already on edge about there being lack of whatever there is a lack of in your home. And so I think the thing for us to remember is to be able to identify that there is a lack and that it can be a source of frustration. But instead of allowing it to be a source of frustration, go ahead and get a plan together. Sit down and talk about it. It might be, well, let me call the company and see if we can change the due date. I told somebody that recently. They was like, "You can do that?" I was like, "Yeah." You don't know until you ask.
Right.
All you got to, and most of the time with companies, if you running late on the bill, they just happy you called to try to work it out instead of waiting on them to call you. So sometimes being proactive and saying, "Listen, I just don't have it. Can we today? But I might have it in 2 weeks. Can we move the due date back?" And a lot of companies, especially credit card companies, says, "Oh yeah, we can do that. One time during the life of our relationship together, we can move your due date, no problem." So you just never know. Sometimes it's what you don't know that's really, it could be the lack of knowledge that's holding you back in your marriage.
And that's why Ms. Edwards, she said, wisdom, why don't people ask for it?
Exactly.
Is it pride? I'm going to submit
Oh,
two
my
answers
gosh.
to you. There is not. People don't ask for it because of pride, and they don't ask for it because they just don't know to ask for
Exactly.
it.
That's right.
Don't know what to ask for.
They don't know. But the Bible tells us to just ask
Yeah.
for wisdom, and that God gives it liberally. He's just waiting for you to ask for it, and He has it there for you. But, wisdom needs permission.
Right.
Wisdom doesn't just come without you submitting and allowing, because nobody can force wisdom on you.
Mm-mm.
You have to give wisdom permission to be in your life or to receive wisdom. People can tell you all kinds of share wisdom with you, but if you're not in a state of mind to receive it, then you won't.
And the only reason I say that it could be a pride thing because that's one of the things I had to go through. I thought I was pretty intelligent guy. I thought I knew a lot, but it was a lot of life I did not have a clue about, and I had to go to people that had lived a little bit and ask them about, okay, this is going on with me. How do I overcome it? What do I need to do? Or when you ask a question, let them finish telling you the question you asked. Don't assume, don't be like, well, yeah, I know. Let them finish talking to you. Because you obviously went to them for a reason. You needed something from them. And a lot of smart people, if you start, well, I know that too. They'll stop talking to you. I'm one of them. If you tell me you know, after you done asked me a question, I'm going to let you live in it. And then maybe we can get back around to it when you're ready to listen. But I had to learn that lesson my own self. And learning to listen more than I taught helped me out tremendously in developing in a marriage relationship.
Latasha Howard, it was she highlighted or put in caps, wisdom needs permission. That was something that God told me years ago, because a lot of times people would come to me for advice, and then you give them the advice and they don't accept it, and that used to aggravate me. So I'm like, why are they even asking if they don't want to know?
Mm-hmm.
And what the answer God gave me is that wisdom needs permission. And I remember as a child, I could recall praying for wisdom as a teenager. I remember that very distinctly because I heard that scripture that all you got to do is ask for it and God will give you wisdom. Well, I saw people around me making dumb choices, so I didn't want to necessarily go that same route. And so that was my prayer for wisdom, and I believe God answered that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people would ask me for information, I give them what I knew to give, whatever God gave me. And they just weren't listening. So I really had to learn that and learn to sit in that. Is that wisdom doesn't do anybody any good if they don't give permission for the wisdom to be, for them to receive that wisdom. So I learned to, don't waste it on giving people information that they aren't ready to receive or that they aren't open to receive. I see Bishop Bush's name, but I need you to read what that is. Right. It's kind of far away.
He says, many wives don't respond well in consistent lack, and most husbands are true. Easily annoyed and lack, period. Money without wisdom can...
There's more?
Yeah, I'm assuming there's more.
Yeah, that's an excellent
We'll
point,
let him finish that.
Well, that's an excellent point, though, is that very often women do not respond well when there's lack. And I think frustration comes on both parts.
Yeah, you get real frustrated when there's a lack in the house.
It's hard to find peace,
especially as a husband, when you truly take on the responsibility of covering the house and being the head of your household. When there's lack, there is no comfort in your soul.
Yeah.
There's hardly any comfort in your soul. Your spirit is all right because that's being fed. But when your body and your mind is not being fed, and not to say that your family is hungry, but there is a lack of what's needed to make your family function, that causes some issues with a man now. And I'm just speaking from experience. So, I can definitely understand what the bishop is saying right there.
Yeah.
And Miss Edwards, I'm not sure if I'm related to your husband or not.
I think she said that based upon a comment you made.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the one about you thought you knew everything or something like that you said.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I thought I was on it. I thought I was on top of my game.
Well, I used to try to share wisdom with my husband, and he wasn't always ready to receive it.
I was not.
And
really, you couldn't force it on me. She couldn't force feed it on me. She was talking to a wall. Stone wall.
So I really had to just focus on myself and work on me. And I found out that was a full-time job. So, And honestly, this what we're talking about should be looked at on a personal level.
Right.
Personally, how can you overcome lack? How do you overcome lust? How do you overcome laziness? You really do have to look at it on a personal level. And honestly, one spouse that's stronger makes the whole marriage stronger. Can't say it resolves all the problems, but it sure does make the relationship stronger as a whole. So when you work on you are working on your marriage relationship.
That's true. All right.
Is that our time?
I think that's our time. Actually, 5 minutes over. But you got any closing remarks? Okay.
Do I have closing remarks? Yes, I do. And those closing remarks are just to remind everyone to pay attention to the lessons. Go back and listen to those lessons that Bishop Bush has posted on those I'm trying to say services and ceremonies all at the same time, and sermons, and that's not working. So those lessons or teachings that are on the website, go back and listen to those lessons and figure out how to apply that information to your daily life. You won't lose any, it won't cost you anything at all to gain that information, and I promise you your life will be blessed moving forward. Can you read those? I see several comments.
The last part of that comment that Bishop Bush was making, it says, money without wisdom can become a device of division.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Many marriages have broken up over problems with money. Many, many, many. I think at one point it was listed as the number one reason why people were divorcing was money-related issues.
And hopefully we've given you enough information through the 2 years of telecast to not let that be one of them. Let that break your marriage up.
I'm sure it's a topic we should revisit from time to time because it's an ongoing issue. In certain parts of those lessons will resonate with people at various times in their lives. So, we appreciate you guys for tuning in with us. We appreciate the positive feedback, and I hope y'all have a blessed rest of the week. And school is almost out, so I just want to emphasize. Y'all remember those of us that are still in the trenches trying to finish the school year out. Keep your children's teachers in your prayers. It's this end of the year is something to get through. We're almost there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to finish?
And just remember, when the lady and the coach come on, we are some real people, y'all. We got our own stuff we deal with. We do.
Because I almost had to choke him out before we got on the air.
See, they didn't have to know that.
But I had to say it.
Why?
It needed to be.
That was non-productive.
It needed to be
that
said.
Was non-productive.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even listen.
The Lord spared us.
All right.
He spared us.
With that said, we love y'all. The lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.